There's something I've noticed about many people. Sometimes the loudest reactions are coming from the deepest insecurities. And one of the most dangerous things in life is not weakness. It is weakness that is pretending to be strength. Because you see, a person can look confident externally and still be emotionally unsafe internally. You see, they can have the title, the platform, the position, they can have the marriage, the influence, the followers, and yet they are deeply fragile in. So today, I want us to talk about a man named Ish-Bosheth. But you see, this story is really not about him. This today is about insecurity. This is about fragile identity. This is about what happens when a person is leading life from fear instead of inner stability. And honestly, many people are functioning like Ish-Bosheth without even realizing. So let's talk. Let's just have this conversation today because it's getting really, really serious. What do you think? Have you heard the name Ish-Bosheth before? Okay, let me explain. Let me introduce you to Ish-Bosheth. Ish-Bosheth was in leadership. He had authority. He had a throne. But internally, he was not secure. Does that sound familiar? And you can always tell when a person is not emotionally secure because they start interpreting everything as a threat. You say one small thing, they get offended. Every disagreement feels dangerous. Every correction feels disrespectful. Every strong person around them feels intimidating. This is exactly what when we look at serial issues. He becomes suspicious of Abner. He's reactive, he's defensive, he's emotionally unstable. Let's call it what it is. And this is important because insecurity does not just affect emotion, it affects perception. Yes, how you see. When identity is weak, perception becomes distorted. You start seeing situations clearly. You start seeing life through fear. And many people are living like this. I know I have lived like this at some point. Someone does not reply your message on time, and immediately your mind says they are rejecting me. Sisters, even brothers at this point. Someone corrects you and instantly you feel attacked. Somebody else succeeds around you and your nervous system enters comparison. Why them? Why is it not me? Why? Because insecurity makes everything feel personal. Yes, it does. It makes everything feel personal. Okay? And now when we look at it, as you know, as a trauma-informed coach, let's go a little deeper. Because people are not usually born emotionally defensive. Something has obviously shaped it. Sometimes insecurity comes from things like growing up constantly criticized, emotionally unavailable parents, your parents were not around or something. There's a lot of comparison around. There's a comparison culture you grew up in. There's rejection. There's bullying. So many reasons. Even abandonment. Those are some of the things that trigger or that allow us to become defensive. Unstable love. Never feeling like you're enough. All these things. The nervous system now begins to learn, I must protect myself. I must defend myself. And eventually, the person becomes hypervigilant. Always checking out, always watching, always being on air, always scanning, always analyzing, always anticipating danger. Sounds very familiar. Even where there is none. And this, trust me when I tell you, this is exhausting because some people cannot rest emotionally. Internally, they are always preparing for rejection. Yes. And what is sad is that insecurity can make good relationships difficult because if somebody loves you genuinely, but you do not feel safe internally, you may still doubt. Not because they are dangerous, but because your wounds are speaking louder than your reality. They are speaking louder than what's happening around you. You're always analyzing and over-expecting. Adeayo. Now, how does insecurity show up? Let me try and make this practical for you. Insecurity can show up as jealousy. Yes. It can show up as over-explaining. It can show up as needing constant reassurance. Yes. It can show up as emotional control. It can show up as people pleasing. It can show up as defensiveness. Yes. Even that. It can even show up as comparison. You see, the inability, and even as the inability to celebrate others, suspicion, emotional withdrawal, These are ways that insecurity shows up. Sometimes even arrogance is insecurity that is just dressed as, a big boy, a big girl. So people are not proud, they are afraid. And the moment you understand that, you'll be able to show more grace. They're afraid of being exposed, they're afraid of not being enough, they're afraid of being replaced. Fear actually changes behavior. Do you realize that? That fear changes behavior. And so there's a danger of leading from insecurity. And now here's the thing. An insecure person with power can damage people. Because when somebody is emotionally unsafe internally, they are often going to create unsafe environments externally. That is why some leaders cannot tolerate feedback. That is why some leaders cannot compete with the people that they lead. That is why some leaders they silence strong voices, they manipulate people emotionally, they constantly need validation. As I'm speaking, I need you to check yourself. I need you to tick the boxes if at all they are, because internally they are still trying to survive, but externally they seem to be functioning. And this is why inner work matters. Very important. Because your unhealed security does not stay inside you. It leaks into your relationships, into your parenting, into your leadership style, into your friendships, into your marriage, even into ministry, everything. So how we heal? What would healing look like? What would healing look like for an insecure, fragile person? Healing will have to begin when a person stops building identity around external things. You don't build identity around applause of men. You don't build identity around titles. You don't build around relationships, around comparison. Your real healing will start saying something like, I am safe. I can be safe without performing. So you begin to not perform and just be. And honestly, one of the signs that healing is happening is that you stop needing to interpret everything personally. When they say A, you don't try and interpret as B. And I'm talking to myself right now. I'm reminding myself. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop assuming everybody hates you. You stop competing unnecessarily. Because your nervous system begins to learn safety. You need to teach your nervous system safety. And once you are safe, your perception will change. And then you become calmer. You become more grounded. You become less reactive. And you become more secure. You no longer need to fight for your worth every day. You're just chill. You're just okay. You're flat because you are beginning to heal. And I think many of us watching, we have spent years surviving emotionally. We're trying to protect ourselves from rejection. We're trying to avoid pain. We're trying to avoid humiliation. But sometimes the walls that we build for protection actually become prisons. One day you realize that you've built a wall of Jericho. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. And maybe the question today is not, who is against me? That's not the question you should be asking. You should be asking, why does everything feel like a threat to me? Because healing is not becoming perfect. Trust me, I'm not perfect. Healing is becoming internally safe, confident inside. And the moment you begin, you love differently, you respond differently. And trust me, you will lead differently. Because now your identity is no longer fighting for survival. And trust me, that will change everything.